Hi, it's Mark Owen from Moose Marketing Power, the editor of Punchline magazine. Welcome to Punchline Talks, the big interview. Today I'm joined by Jim Grant. He's the CEO and principal of Cirencester College. The college themselves employs 320 people, has over 2,800 students, and a turnover around £14.4 million. Welcome, Jim. Welcome to Punchline Talks.
Very pleased to be here. Thanks, Mark.
No worries at all. Well, last time I saw you, we were doing the Business Breakfast Briefing show, and you touched on so many different levels. I thought we'd invite you back. Can you tell us, please, about the college, first of all?
Right. So it's a sixth-form college, very rare thing in the Southwest. There's only 3 in the whole region. We mainly teach 16 to 19-year-olds. That's our kind of core mission. We've been known for years for our A-level provision, and we've got the biggest range in the whole area. And we've always had quite a number of vocational courses running alongside that. We also do apprenticeships and a little bit of level 2 and a little bit of adult. What the big change, I suppose, over the last 3 years is we're the pioneer in the region for T-levels. And we're gradually moving the college towards being an A-level and T-level college. So there's both level 3 A-level equivalent courses. One is primarily an academic route for students, and the other one is technical. The T-levels being, a massive national agenda in terms of upskilling the population and making sure we've got the technical skills for the future.
So T-levels are technical, like A-levels, are they? Are they equivalent to
A-levels? No, they're the equivalent of, but they don't look anything like it. I mean, as a course, they're about the size in terms of the amount of time students do of sort of 3.5 A-levels. But they also do a 45-day work placement, which is a major part of their learning. The idea is really, I mean, people are familiar with apprenticeships. If you think about an apprenticeship as you do, say, 4 days in work, and maybe you have a day where you might go to college or learn online, it's kind of the other way around. It's the equivalent of 3 days in college and 2 days in the workplace. But the idea is it gets you to the same point. So at the end of a T-level, you can go straight into a technical level job. You don't have to be completely retrained by the employer when you get there. And you've also got the experience of being in the workplace. So you have those kind of soft skills. You have the kind of you can meet the expectations of being in an adult working environment in the right sector. But you have that. But if you wanted to, you could go on to higher apprenticeships. You could go on to university in those areas. And I mean, we're the as I say, we were the only college within 60 miles of here to be offering the T-levels in 2020. And those students we had then in construction and in early years in childcare, they have just finished, and roughly half of them are going straight into employment in technical roles, and half of them are going to university nearly always to do technical subjects. So, for example, on the construction side, some are going to university, they're doing surveying. We've got some on architecture course, some on building design, and so forth.
Now, the big problem I've always heard from people who work in the business owners is these soft skills of young people. Yeah. The inability to pick up the phone and actually have a conversation, the inability to look someone in the eye and as they shake their hand, or even shaking their hand.
Yeah.
Are these things that you guys have to address now, or is it down to the businesses?
No, I think it's both sides, and I think that the T-levels were designed by employers. I mean, the beauty about them, and this is utterly unlike any vocational qualification that's ever existed in Britain before, they didn't start with the old one and say, how do we tweak it? They just said, right, blank sheet of paper, what do we want in our industry? And so some of those things were like, well, we need these technical skills for anybody who's coming in. But a lot of them are soft skills. A lot of them are those things like team working, like being able to present, like being able to research, whatever it might be. An awareness of health and safety. Those kind of basic things that you don't want to have to teach someone who's coming in, particularly in a small firm. You can't afford to spend all your time teaching them the absolute basics. So that's integral to the course, and they're going to learn that probably in 2 or 3 ways. One way, obviously, is on their placement, where they're in a workplace working alongside people in employers, so they will learn there. But also on our courses, we've structured the learning around real life scenarios. I mean, one of the things we've asked employers for in order to help us is give us some real life scenarios. Let's look at the actual work you do, and then let's build the learning here around that kind of a scenario. Now, a lot of that will involve students having to work in teams, having to present, having to do the kind of tasks that they would have to do in the workplace, so they get used to that way of working. I think that the third component here, and this is where the college historically hasn't been in a good place, is space. We've got loads of great classrooms, and we've got some great science labs and a nice sports hall and stuff, but we hadn't got areas for technical learning, either workshops or other spaces. So what we've got a new building we're just opening. When we get the electricity finally sorted out, we'll have it fully opened. We designed into that areas for students to work in huddles, for people to work in teams, for people to present and pitch to employers, for areas where employers can come in and work with students and mentor them. So we've actually designed into the fabric of the college areas where, by working in those areas, they're going to start to acquire some of those skills. And we've designed the building, ironically, to be like a modern digital workplace. Obviously, we designed that before lockdown, before everybody started working at home and not going to modern digital workplaces. But you kind of get the drift. We're trying to make the feel of the place be like a modern workplace / university, rather than a college or a school, because we want them to respond to that environment and act differently. One of the things we're trying to do here is to kind of model behaviour.
So it's more like, actually, so when you go there, it is actually a job scenario. It's almost like being in a proper workplace, in a proper office.
Absolutely, I mean, some of the in some of the courses that we're offering, the students will actually be wearing, because they'll be going into a uniformed area, they're wearing a uniform. So in the health area, they'll be wearing mock-ups of NHS uniforms to get used to that, and the importance of the uniform, the importance of all the other protocols that go alongside that. I mean, we've actually got, we haven't got it in the new building yet. We've actually got the stuff, but we've got a hospital ward with beds and robot patients and pretty much everything you'd see in a regular hospital ward there. And the students will get used to the routines of working with those things, working with clients and so forth, so that by the time they get to an actual hospital, they kind of know the territory of it. They know the language, they know what the things are, they know how to use things. Which is all, I think, really important in terms of preparing them.
I always thought the Gloucester, what they're doing, the university in Gloucestershire, what they're doing in Debenhams, they're going to turn that into a sort of NHS Training University. Will that have a knock-on effect to you guys and what you're doing? I competition?
Not really competition, no, because we're operating at level 3, the A-level equivalent. They're operating at levels 4, 5, 6. So what's likely to happen, I suspect, is that we have a lot of students doing the health-related course who go on to UWE. It may well be that more of them go on to Gloucester to once that facility is up and running. I mean, obviously, once that is up and running, we'll be making contact with them and hopefully taking students over to see that and say, well, this is something you can progress onto if you don't want to go straight into nursing, or straight into health, but you actually want to do that course first.
Okay.
So well, I think both investments, I think, will work together really.
Now, you've just opened the 4.5 million digital skills centre as well. Can you tell us about that, please, and how that's working through to the college?
So that's the one which has got, well, that one's got the employer spaces and so forth. So the idea there was we started a lot of digital T levels. So there's one in kind of programming / cyber. There's one in, if you like, IT support and also digital business. We wanted a home for those that had all the equipment that was necessary. So in the case of the kind of cyber / programming area, there's kind of standalone networks, so that basically the students can practice cyber attacks and responding to them without actually messing up the whole college. So that was a feature of it. But what we've also done, and I think this is probably going to have the bigger impact, honestly, in the long term, is we're trying to make, we concentrate our IT resources in that one building. But what we're trying to do is to make sure that all the A-level students, who've nearly all opted not to do IT, actually do something digital as part of their course. We're calling this Digication. It's a major project for us. And again, it's no one else has got this idea, is that basically within all the A-levels that students have chosen because they love those subjects, we're trying to insert a digital element. And, I've mentioned before, and one of the, an example would be geography. All the geographers are going to do something involving GIS, Geographic Information Systems. There are so many jobs that use that kind of software. And what we're hoping that that bit of experience does is two things. One is if they're going on to university to do geography, they consider maybe going to universities that actually use that kind of technology to actually broaden that experience. And the second thing, and the more important thing really, is they start to actually, I can have a career in a geography related area using this kind of software, that here's a skill I could get that actually is marketable, and actually I could still do something associated with subjects I love. And I think that's what we're hoping is that is the hook that's going to get students re-engaged with learning digital skills, because to be quite frank, at 14, the vast majority of pupils in schools drop IT and digital. They may well learn from TikTok or something off socially, but they're not learning formally. And for females, it's absolutely catastrophic, the dropout at that rate. So we're hoping to re-engage through that so that more students consider digital careers, make it, in the first instance, linked to the 3 subjects they're doing at A level, or to one of them. And I think the other thing there is then giving them the appreciation that in this area there are lots of firms who they've not heard of that are maybe using that kind of technology. So if we can start to make those links, then we start maybe starting to see people think, well, okay, I'm going to university, I'm going to Swansea, I'm going to study oceanographic geography or something like that. However, I know there's 2 micro businesses based in Bourton on the Water or somewhere that are actually doing this and that. I know there's companies that actually have to come back to this area and work for. Because one of the things that I don't think is appreciated is how many young people actually would like to work in this area, but they actually don't think there's any jobs. They think they've got to go away.
Yeah, it's an educational thing from businesses, isn't it? The businesses need to tell the kids, and the kids need to know what's available. Because at 14, let's be honest about it, 14, 16, well, you tell me, do a lot of them know what they want to do?
No, most of them don't, and that's quite normal, and that's why we're kind of, if like, rather than trying to convert them, we're kind of rolling with what they're actually interested in. They pick 3 subjects at A level. Most of those ones who are doing A levels are going to go to university, but we're thinking, what we're saying is seeding some ideas in what they've already chosen to do, so that they actually, it informs them for later on, and maybe then starts to change their direction thereafter. But yeah, I mean, and it's a massive challenge for firms. If you think, we live in an area of, it's nearly all micro businesses, and by themselves, it's incredibly difficult for them to have any kind of influence. So, I mean, we based what we're doing on a lot of survey work we did a couple of years ago, but also the work the LEP did on trying to find out, well, what the skill shortages and what are the areas that which employers need. So we're drawing on that. The other thing we're drawing on is we've got, for each of our T levels, for example, we've got employer boards, and the purpose of those employer boards is to tell us what to teach, primarily, and then if there's things they want to do involving students, that too. But it's hopefully a fairly low investment for those firms, but actually it allows us to keep up to date with what they need. But it also means that we can start linking employers up with interesting things to do with students as well.
I mean, you have got such a wide range of businesses around you. I mean, just down Love Lane itself, engineering, manufacturing, carpentry, from fish, aquatic stuff. I mean, I've seen it all down there. It really is a massive opportunity for businesses and for students alike.
Yeah, there is. And interestingly, quite a lot of the T levels are in areas that we've never offered here before at the college, and therefore, for students in the great swathes of the county, they've not had access to, because obviously because of transport issues and so forth. So we're offering things like surveying. Well, that's never been offered here before. We're just about to offer manufacturing engineering. That's not been offered here before. We've got a number of creative industries coming online next year, which again are new. But we've got tons and tons of great creative companies in the region. So we're really looking forward to working with them.
Now, you've been there at the college for 30 years, so you've seen an awful lot of change in that time. You've also got 320 staff.
Yeah.
Now, what's it like to manage that? Let's talk about you as the CEO. It's a big business, isn't it?
Yeah, in some respects, yes. In some respects, yeah. But I suppose it's a very difficult one for me because I have grown with it. You know, so when we started out, there were like 27 lecturers and about 15 support staff. So we had about 40 staff, 50 staff day one, and 500 students. So I've kind of grown with it, and that's kind of unusual, I think.
So what's the hardest bit of your job, Jim, with the staff and with all those students, and balancing the books, all the things that you have to do as a chief exec?
Time management is a massive one. Harder stuff. It's always delivering bad news. That's always the hardest thing, isn't it? In any kind of organisation. I love the variety. I love the challenge. I love the fact that literally it can be. I might be talking about what's happened to the collapsed drain in the car park down there, and a new building, or getting a new T level ready for launch, or it could be literally anything. And so that variety is amazing.
You've had all these big buildings built, the Digital Skills Centre and the T level building. What's been the biggest learning curve for you with managing these projects?
Okay, well, in terms of managing the projects, is that you have to manage them. You can't rely on them just to go by themselves. So I've had to learn far more than I thought I would ever want to know about everything from kind of systems of clicking bricks into place to M&E and stuff like that. Because if you don't keep close tabs, then prices run away with themselves and so forth, and decisions get made that that. I suppose I'm in a fairly unique position in terms of actually understanding the education side, and so you need to make sure that whatever's happening is really going to suit the education side. Fortunately, or maybe because of that, we're working with some phenomenal companies, local Gloucestershire companies who actually really get it and do a fantastic job there. But I suppose the biggest lesson for us has been that if you don't ask, you don't get. And I think for many years the college didn't ask and didn't get. And I think we've actually become really, really good at bidding. We've got a really successful strike rate. And I think that's because we've done it ourselves. I mean, nearly everybody I know has somebody else come in and do it. But I've got a really good team of 3 people, and we kind of do the bids ourselves. And I think that the command of detail we've got and the personalisation of that, and also linking it to we're bright enough to be able to link it to what the funders are looking for, but that realization that you could do it yourself rather than rely on external consultants to do it, who to be honest are very often using fairly generic approaches. I think that's paid real dividends, and I wish we'd done it earlier.
Well, that leads me actually to my next question, which is, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned, or the biggest mistake you've learned over the years?
Well, I'm not going to confess to my biggest mistakes, obviously. It's almost personnel related. But I think not doing that quick enough. Not doing that previously, I think, was one. There's strategic errors that the college has made historically that we don't really need to go into.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, let's talk about you. We'll talk about yourself a little bit, actually, because you've been there, I've said, 30 years. But where are you actually from, Jim? Are you from Gloucestershire?
No, well, I was an Air Force kid, so I'm from nowhere. But
you're an Air Force kid like me then?
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
A sprogler then?
Yes, I was until I was 10. I was all over the shop. 3 years in Cyprus and various other places around Britain. But then from Felixstowe, Suffolk. So that's kind of home.
And how did you land here in Gloucestershire?
Completely by accident. I'd been after various other thoughts about careers. I ended up doing teacher education in London, which I loved, and I stayed there another year. And then I just had to find a job at the end of that period, and I applied for about 60 all over the country. And the first one that said yes was in Gloucestershire, so I came and worked at school in Gloucestershire for nine years, and then the college opened, and I managed to creep under the fence to get into that.
You never fancied joining the Air Force yourself, then?
I'm colourblind. So I could have been in the RAF regiment, but I think the exciting things I would have been no. But my dad was a navigator, and I would have quite liked that. But I mean, there's actually no way that they're ever going to accept me with my apparent red-green.
So I have the same, by the way. That's why I was a chef. That's why my curries look terrible. Can't tell what colour they are. You said when you first arrived, how big was the college then?
Well, it was brand new. It was a mushroom sixth form in Cirencester with I think we inherited about 400 students from Deer Park and Kings Hill, and there was a tiny adult education bit in the front, which is now at Stroud College, that was running in Cirencester, and those were put together to form Cirencester College. So it was tiny, 40 odd staff, some old buildings, and about 500 students.
Now we're blessed actually with a lot of colleges here. Obviously Gloucester College, we've got Stroud College, we've got the university. Do you guys all work together? Is it a little bit of competition? At the end of the day, you've all got to get bums on seats because it all pays for, you get payment, I suppose, for every single student. It's like a customer thing.
To be honest,
like that?
Not so much with the colleges, no. I mean, we've actually got a thing called the Federation of Colleges where we work together. I mean, the line say there's some competition, but we've each kind of got strengths and specialisms and markets that don't overlap the others. I mean, so there's a limited area where we do overlap and we do compete. I mean, we're the biggest A-level provider in the region, so the other colleges don't offer that. Hartbury does a bit, but a more limited range. But the other SGS in Gloucestershire don't, and neither do Glasgow. Whereas they've got big HE sections. They've got whole areas of employment that we don't deal with. I mean, Hartbury is kind of off the scale in terms of sport and HE, and you've got a lot of things like vehicle and hairdressing and kind of site construction and stuff like that. We don't do that. So the area of competition is with the colleges is quite limited. Rather different with schools, but that's another story. So we do work together, and in fact we're collaborating at the moment on what's called an SDF Student Development Fund bid, which is about getting more training in a number of areas, including things like agri-tech and green technologies and so forth. So, I would have said cooperate more than compete.
And on a business-to-business front, I mean, how do you reach out to the business community, and what sort of impact do you get? What sort of, do you have those really good relationships? And would you like more and from different sectors? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, I mean, we have really good relationships with business. I mean, a problem I've got at the moment is actually just recruiting people whose job is to go out to businesses. But we've had phenomenal response from employers around T-levels. I mean, obviously, to start with, you explain what it is because they've not heard of it and how it can work, and you talk to particularly small employers about how an apprentice could work for them or how a T-level placement could work. And so there's a lot of work there to be done. But then we find the payback is, apart from the placements and obviously students getting jobs with them, you've also got employers who will come in and do talks. You've got employers coming and running competitions with students, and employers who come in and say, well, if you're teaching that, you need to be teaching this. This is where our industry is going. Because, of course, they're ahead of exam boards. Exam boards are always 2, 3, 4 years behind the curve at least, whereas the employers know what's coming down the track to them now. So that's so valuable. But we'd love to have more employers in absolutely every sector. I can't think of a single sector where we go, we've got too many of those at the moment. No, we haven't. I mean, the more involvement, the better, really.
Okay. On a personal note, what's the latest novel that you're reading?
Latest novel? I haven't read a novel for a couple of years. I'm tending to read sort of either biographies or histories.
What's the last biography?
I read a biography of James Brown. It was kind of one of those jazz biographies that kind of jumps around all over the place. It's not a narrative, which I read a couple of weeks back.
Okay. Yeah. And if I went into your, got in your car and you had your CD player on, what would be plugged in?
Wow.
What's the last CD that you bought or download album?
I think the last things I tend to download live music because I stopped buying CDs some while ago, and So I tend to get stuff on YouTube actually. That's an interesting thing. What was the last thing I did? It tends to be pretty esoteric. So at the moment I'm sort of wading through a list of sort of country soul things from the 1960s and some old rockabilly things at the moment.
Okay.
But next week it might be Van Morrison or the Stone Roses. But it could be literally anything.
Okay, we're coming to we're wrapping up, unfortunately, Jim. We're coming into the end of our time together. What's your top 3 business tips, please, sir?
Okay, I'm not saying any of these are particularly innovative or anything else. I think leaving aside that if you don't ask, you don't get. I've found networks, benchmark, what we call benchmark groups of other principals, massively valuable in terms of support for me as a principal. I've learned a hell of a lot of other people, and I was trying to reciprocate. And those kind of groups where you're not really in competition with people, and we've got 5 different groups up and down the country that we kind of work with. I think having some people there to test your ideas about, to see, all dealing with the same problems. I think that's really, really important. I think what I've learned, when I first went into management, you were told don't design jobs around people. You decide your structures and fit people to that. I actually increasingly think the reverse is true. I think people is easily the most important thing. I mean, we've even got to a stage where we think, well, what we'd really like to do when we recruit people is recruit people on attitude. And it sounds dreadful coming from some education, but the qualifications are much, much less important than the individual. Have they got the right ideas? Are they driven? Have they got the same kind of values as the college? Have they, are they excited about working here? Are they, the kind of personal qualities they might have? Actually, those are the key things. And I've got an amazing team of people I work with who I'm so grateful to. And that, that's because the people, it's actually getting the right characters in there, and then thinking, okay, well, we can move the jobs around. Character X is brilliant at that. Why not play to their strengths rather than insist they do X, Y, and Z over there that actually they're never going to be that good on, but you've got someone who can do that with their eyes shut. So I think getting the characters right. And I think the lesson I've learned increasingly, which I alluded to earlier, is just be brave. Is when new things come along, or where you think actually we could do that, go for it. Because I mean, no one's actually going to stop you. They might give you the money, but no one's actually going to stop you. And you may be right. So many people you talk to are just waiting to follow somebody, and actually there's lots of scope there to sort of push yourselves forward. And I think that's what I've done. That's what we've done as a college over the last, particularly we've done that through the whole history of the college, punched above our weight, but particularly the last 5 years. I mean, we're being used by the Department of Education as like the exemplar for designing the level 2 pre-T level course. We just got onto the contract to do the same with the students who didn't get their A levels the first time, but want to do A levels. And we would never have put ourselves forward years ago. But by being brave, I think we're getting opportunities.
Jim, that's all we've got time for today. Thanks ever so much for joining Punchline Talks. Hope to see you very good and very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.